Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. The football is finally back this week. This Saturday, we're finally going to get to see a real live Chargers football game. And although it is the preseason game, it should be something that's entertaining and something that is actually worthwhile for fans to watch. Right? We're going to have the Chargers, we're going to have the Rams, we're going to have Staley versus his old head coach versus the guy that hired him. It should be a really interesting battle. And so today in this video, it's not really going to be a lot of me explaining graphs or data because honestly, there is none, right? And I really wanted to do like a preseason week one preview. But again, there's not much to go off of. The Chargers have a completely new head coaching staff, a completely new scheme change. The Rams have a new quarterback. We don't know what their offense is going to look like. We don't even know if the Rams are going to play their starters. Sean McVay is notorious for keeping his starters out during the preseason and instead playing a lot of backups, which it could be or could not be the right move. Like we don't really know. For all we know, or from what we do know, keeping your starters out keeps them healthy, right? So the number one thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm interested to hear your guys' take in the comments. Should Chargers be playing their starters at all? And in my opinion, I think there is some upside to giving them one drive, maybe two drives if the first drive is a 3-and-out. This is a completely new offense, hasn't really performed in a game setting yet. I understand you have Fan Fest, you have, the scrimmages that you do, the 11-on-11, the 7-on-7. So, this is a real game, real tackling and everything. And, as good as the Chargers look on paper, we don't know how the hype's going to match up, if that makes sense. So, you really want to see what this finished product is going to look like on the field. So to me, regardless if it's this game or the next game, we should be giving the starters at least a drive just to see how they look, just to give them, a taste of what an NFL game will be like, right? This is an offense with a completely new scheme, 4 new starters along the offensive line. There's a lot of change here. And just to throw them out week one without any real live reps may not be the move. And I think, if you want to hold out guys like Balaga and Corey Linsley, that's fine. But maybe, have some of the pass catchers in there. You want to really just see what you have with this offense. So that's number one. Will the starters play at all? All right, which kind of leads into number two. How does this depth chart play out in week one? And honestly, for the rest of the preseason, and not like I said, every week I'm going to be doing like a preview into who the Chargers are playing, and I'll have all the data and all the graphs ready for you guys. But like I said, there isn't much to go off of right now because there is no data for me to work with. But if you really want to, keep up with everything that happened the previous week before I make a video on it, follow me at Arjun Menon, ARJUN, MENON 100 on Twitter, where I'll be putting all my graphs regarding like passing, running, defense, all of that stuff that, you guys love to see. It'll be on Twitter and I'll just be posting it throughout the week. So number two thing I'm going to keep a watch for is the depth chart. Honestly, the number one position I'm looking for is the receiver position. And like, we kind of know that 1 through 5 is kind of cemented unless Jalen Guyton has like a really rough preseason and rest of camp. But, he's been what he's advertised as, deep threat, solid, everywhere else, not the best hands, has some drops here and there, but from what I heard, he had a couple of catches in the Fan Fest scrimmage, so you never know. So the last spot's going to come down to Austin Proehl, KJ Hill, and Joe Reed. And honestly, I didn't really know about Austin Proehl. Like, I wasn't an Austin Proehl truther, but what we know now is, he's making a lot of catches. He's going to be like that nifty, seems like a slot guy, maybe outside guy, like a Cole Beasley role. He's going to get open, sturdy hands, and he has punt return flexibility, which is important. You want to be versatile so that the coaching staff can play you anywhere. So what I'm going to watch out for is, is he running with the starters? So if the starters don't play at all, the 2s are the 1s, the 3s are the 2s. So who's playing with Chase Daniel? Is it Austin Proehl? Is it KJ Hill? Is it Joe Reed? Is it Michael Bandy? People like that. So I'm going to keep a watch out for that. I'll have all my like snap counts, how they did, how they compared, next week when I do my recap video. So make sure to stick around for that. So that's one depth chart, position I'm going to be monitoring. The second one to me is the cornerback position. I want to see, if number one, Ryan Smith is going to play. He's kind of on the bubble for me. Like, I thought he'd be like a lock as a special teams gunner and as a backup corner, but he hasn't been practicing a lot, hasn't been able to practice because of his injury. So maybe Tavon Campbell, slides up in that backup cornerback role. We'll see if Asante Samuel plays, if Brandon Faison's able to come back from his family issue, which I hope everything's doing well with him. And then finally, John Brandon, I heard he had a couple good days of camp. He had a pick in the Fan Fest. So if he sneaks in when Ryan Smith is out, or if he does better than Tavon Campbell, I think that's a really interesting battle to monitor. And then finally, for me, the linebacker position, there's been a lot of talk, like, we could see Cole Christensen and Amen on, I'm just going to call him Amen. I'm not going to even attempt the last name. We've seen a lot of good reports out of them that they're getting chances to be the primary play caller with the threes. And so where does that leave Ben Niemann, right? If his special teams value is the only thing he has, and Amen's been rocking with the ones, in FanFest, Steven and I were talking about it the other day. Like, it seems like Amen replaced Kenneth Murray for a decent amount of snaps in FanFest as with the ones. Maybe Amen sneaks on and Ben Niemann gets cut, which obviously isn't something that we really want. You don't really want to cut a draft pick. Oh, I'm so sorry. His name is Nick Niemann, not Ben Niemann. I was like, Ben Niemann doesn't sound right. So yeah, Ben Niemann's his brother, Nick Niemann. We could see him potentially get cut if he's not really running a lot of snaps with the higher level starters, or if he's not running with the twos. If he's running solely with the threes, then he could be a potential cut, even though he was drafted and Amen wasn't. So that's another battle that I think is worth to monitor. And finally, the last thing I want, I'm going to keep track of, especially, and I'll have a bunch of stuff on it next week, is the personnel packages and how they look. So what does that mean? So let's start with defense. I've talked a ton about this offseason. If you've been watching my videos, this is going to be a 2-high safety look. You're going to have two safeties, and Staley's going to disguise his coverage. That is the whole goal for this defense. So obviously, going at Sean McVay, the 2-high safety look is meant to disguise and to stop Sean McVay's offense. That was the whole goal. You want to stop the wide zone scheme by playing lighter boxes, right? So number one, how much 2-high does Staley run with the Chargers? And I'm expecting it to be at about a 60, 70, potentially 80% clip, which is what we want, right? The 2-high is the future of the NFL. Number two, how much nickel and dime does Staley actually run with this defense? We know Staley ran a ton of dime last year because the Rams didn't have a lot of competent linebackers, but they had a lot of good defensive backs. But the Chargers have a pretty solid, linebacking group this year. So does he instead focus on running a lot of nickel, where you have Kenneth Murray and Kaiser, or Kenneth Murray and Tranquil, or Tranquil and Kaiser on the field? Or is it still going to be a lot of dime and you're bringing that extra DB on, like an Alohi Gilman, and you're moving Durbin to the dime backer money spot and Chris Harris to the nickel backs or star spot? So that's on defense what I'm going to be looking for. 2-high looks. What type of coverages they're going to play? Is it a lot of cover 3, 4, 6? Are they playing a lot of man maybe? And then also some of the defensive line rotations, if Fackrell and Nwosu are going to play, or what the interior defensive line positions are going to look like. Now on offense, to me, I think the biggest thing are a couple of things. Number one is play action. I think we've seen a good amount of play action from training camp and in FanFest, which is a good thing. Play action makes any quarterback more efficient than they are without play action. Okay. And I think in New Orleans, the Saints didn't run a lot of play action because Drew Brees isn't the most mobile quarterback, but Justin Herbert is. He's a great bootleg quarterback, and I think they should be trying to run that a lot. One thing I've noticed, though, is they have been using a lot of I formation plays where you have Gabe Neighbors lining up in the backfield. And that's another thing I'm going to watch out for. How much I formation, single back versus shotgun personnel are they going to be using versus the Rams? And I'm sure Staley and Lombardi are not going to show their entire playbook, which they shouldn't. But it's going to be interesting to see how much of each personnel, how much of each drop back type they're going to use. And again, I'll be posting all of this on my Twitter, just like it could be in a graph format, could be in a table, could just be me throwing out numbers. So make sure, if you really want to see that as the week's going on, follow me, Arjun Menon 100. So that's the next part of what I'm, going to be looking at and recapping in my video next week when I go over the Rams Chargers game, and then, what to look forward to in the Chargers 49ers game. So again, defense, what I'm going to be looking for, 2-high, and the type of coverages they play on offense, what type of personnel they're running, I formation, single back, shotgun, the type of passes, is a lot of bootleg, is it a lot of just straight dropbacks where they're hitting a receiver, And then how does his offensive line look? Hey, like if the starters play at all, that's probably the number one thing. We know what we're getting from this pass catching group. We know what we can get from this running back group. What does his offensive line look like? Has it changed at all? Has it gotten better? Has it stayed the same? Has it gotten worse? Which I don't think is possible. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And I hope everyone is going to be enjoying this game, right? First time for football, live football in a long time, right? We have a new head coaching staff. All the hype is kind of leading up to this moment. I know it's only the preseason, but for some players, the preseason is the world. That's where they make their move to be on the team. So don't be too harsh with like, oh, the preseason is so boring. It's at least you're getting to watch football, right? So yeah, that's going to bring me to the end of this episode. I think one of the things I really would appreciate is like if you guys throw in a couple of things you want me to look at, when doing these previews going into next week. So like for the Chargers 49ers game, what do you want me to look at from the 49ers tape and from their data and what to expect? And then obviously like what do you want me to recap from the Chargers Rams game? That'd be super helpful. And I look forward to hearing some of the reactions on Twitter, some of the overreactions from some of these players. And this coaching staff and what everything looks like. And also I didn't mention it, but the kicking battles is a very important thing. I don't know how that's going to work out if only one person's going to kick throughout the entire game or all three are going to kick. Well, that remains to be seen. But again, I hope everyone enjoys some football next Saturday. And with that, as always, bolts up.